Welcome in, everybody, to Fantasy Pros MLB. It's me, Joey P, Joe Pisapia. With me is Joe Orrico, and today we're going to do a little fun video for you about some pitchers in early ADP that we think are going to grossly outperform where they're being drafted early. Now, look, it is very early. It's best ball season here. Obviously, as we get closer to fantasy drafts for redraft, things are going to change a little bit. But right now, at least for the time being, on FantasyPros.com, you can see the consensus rankings. You can go look at NFBC rankings too. And there's some guys that we think aren't getting enough love, some guys that are being a little suppressed in those pitcher streets. Should Joe Orrico, let's start with a guy who was a fantasy darling in the analyst community a couple years ago. Injuries kind of derailed him, but quietly got back on track and healthy last year. Let's talk about Kyle Bradish, who right now is a guy who is going as the 72nd player overall and the ADP SP of 24.
Yeah, this is the type of player I like to buy into when they've returned from their Tommy John surgery. They've had a little bit of time to get reacclimated on the mound. And now you're in year 2 post-surgery. And usually the last thing to come back is the command. And Kyle Bradish returned with a sub 8% walk rate while striking out 37% of the batters he faced. Yes, it was 6 starts. It was 32 innings. But it's a really good sign for Kyle Bradish that he was able to return and not be all over the place. We saw Yuri Perez struggle. We saw Spencer Strider struggle. A lot of guys come back, and that initial return doesn't look good. The fact that Bradish hit the ground running really gives me a lot of encouragement. He's on a new and improved Orioles team. It's still the same Orioles team, but they have gotten better over the course of this offseason, of course, with Pete Alonso coming into town. They disappointed as a whole last year, but I think the Orioles will bounce back. There should be a lot of wins to go around for Kyle Bradish, and I think, honestly, he has a chance to finish as an SP1 in 2026.
I don't think that that's a far stretch at all, and I do think they'll be improved. And look, a lot of things went wrong last year for the Baltimore Orioles. I don't think 2 years in a row we get everything going wrong. Still a lot of talent on that team. You hope Jackson Holliday takes another step forward. You hope Gunnar Henderson has a good year, Westberg, and again, bringing Alonso, a real bat in that middle of that order that you have to account for, helps everybody. And it's going to help the pitching staff too. So you get Rogers and Bradish at the top of that rotation. Hopefully things go well for them. All right, first guy on my list, and I do all the pitcher write-ups for the Fantasy Baseball Black Book, which you can get on Amazon right now. So go pick it up there. Joe Orrico, a contributor. And of course, I do all the pitching profiles there. And number one on my list for up-and-coming pitchers this year is Nolan McLean. And that is despite the fact that I'm a loser Met fan. Because as a Met fan, you know, things don't go your way more often than not. Right now, currently, he's the 28th starting pitcher off the board. His ADP is 104 overall. And I just don't think it's high enough. This is another guy that I think is easily a top 20 guy, if not potentially top 15 if everything breaks right. You saw that walk rate go from about 4 walks per 9 to 3 walks per 9 when he got called up to the big leagues. You've seen a guy with 6 pitches who went out there and absolutely dominated at the end of last season. Now, I know it's a small sample. It's 48 innings. He was 5-1 over those 8 starts that he made, though. He had 57 strikeouts and 48 innings. The movement on his pitches, Joe, is insane. It looks like we're playing wiffle ball in the backyard in Boston or something, and one of those guys build those little wiffle ball fields everywhere. It's nuts to see how much movement he's got. Hitters taking uncomfortable at bat after uncomfortable at bat. And for a kid who's just 24 years old, going on 25, there's an opportunity for him to be catapulted into that special tier system. And I think the Mets offseason has been quiet because I think they view Nolan McLean as an ace of this staff. They just haven't told anybody, but they're showing you that's what they believe. I am hard pressed to think he's not going to be at the top of the board when the Rookie of the Year nominations come out here for all the sports books. And that also tells you something too. So Nolan McLean to me is a guy that has just magnificent talent. He's flashed it. He's come on strong here at the end of last year. A 104 whip, a 206 ERA. Are those numbers going to hold? No, but the strikeout potential is off the chart. The Mets will still do enough to have a very good team on the field because of the ownership. So to me, Nolan McLean is a guy that is not being drafted highly enough, despite the fact that he's right around that top 100. Next guy on your list, we got to go crosstown. Talk to me about a Yankee pitcher, Joe Orrico, that you got on your list.
It kills me to talk up a Yankee, but you know what? We got to leave the Blue Jay bias at the door on these shows, and Cam Schlittler is somebody that I am really interested in. His 14 starts were excellent in 2025. He had a 2.96 ERA, a 122 whip. He had that amazing start against the Red Sox in the playoffs. There's a lot to like here. The stuff is really good. The team behind him is really good. Some of the supporting metrics, like if you look at the xFIPs and the expected ERAs, they were a little bit higher than you would have hoped. I think a lot of that comes down to the walk rate being a little bit high at 10.2%. He's always been a guy who will live in that 8 to 10% walk range, but he's striking out 30% of batters at most levels, and to debut with a nearly 28% strikeout rate leads me to believe that he can build off of that. The swinging strike rates in the minors were routinely 13, 14%, gets a lot of chases. There's a lot to like about Cam Schlittler, and being drafted not as high as I honestly would have thought, as the SP 37, 40 type of range in early drafts. He's somebody that I've landed on a couple times, which does hurt me as a Blue Jay, but you know what? You got to take the value where they come.
Yeah, I think he's easily a top 40 guy, but I think he has the potential to be a top 30 guy as well. And you are getting a little bit of a discount on him. And it is weird because he's a Yankee. So you would think that there would be more of a premium because he's a Yankee. But I don't know. Maybe the Yankees are starting to feel a little bit more self-loathing like me lately. That's kind of nice. Kind of enjoy that a little bit. I'm not going to lie. All right, next guy on my list is the 43rd starting pitcher off the board. An ADP right now of 149 overall. It's Nick Lodolo of the Cincinnati Reds. I've taken this guy in mock drafts. You could watch here on the channel, on the YouTube channel. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Check it out. I go into length there about him. But as I said in the Black Book, I feel like we are on the precipice of something special here. Sometimes those lefties take a little bit longer in the pressure cooker. And Nick Lodolo last year had his best statistical season. He has most innings. He had 156. A lot of this was about health for him too, and consistency. And, you know, he is still just 27 years old, right? He's reaching his prime years. Prime years are going to be 28 to 31 for him, maybe even 32 with the way some pitchers have gone recently. And last year, I understand he had a 500 record basically, but over 156 innings, he limited the hits, only 138 hits, so he was tough to square up. In terms of strikeout to walk ratio, about as good as it gets. 156 strikeouts, just 31 walks, and that's the special sauce for me. When you're a lefty who's tough, doesn't walk anybody, you're not giving up hits, you're not putting guys on base, and you still have a 9K per nine, that is good. Now, I know he stumbled a little bit in September at the end of the year. That's okay. I think it's a little bit of fatigue at the end of the season kind of sent him down. I love this Reds team. I love what they're capable of doing. Tito Francona, one of the best to ever do it. He had a 108 whip, a 3.33 ERA, and a lot of the xERA and FIP numbers and all those other pieces of the puzzle all look really good for Lodolo too. So no flukes here for him. It's not like something's going to all of a sudden catch up with us next year with regression. If anything, I think there might even be a step forward. And if he could just cross that 30 start threshold, I think we're in for something really special, because Lodolo right now, to me, as the 43rd starting pitcher is nuts. I think he's more like a top 25 guy, potentially, at least top 30. So a huge discount on him. All right, let's get to the last guy on your list, and you got to go to Pittsburgh for this one, Joe.
Yeah, it's not typically what you would initially associate with SP value is Pittsburgh, but Braxton Ashcraft is going off the board outside of the top 100 starting pitchers. His ADP, if you're looking at recent NFBC drafts, 292. He's pushing 300. And I love it. I love everything about him, but that price is just so appealing. He had 69 and two-thirds innings in the majors last year. It was a 2.71 ERA, a 125 whip. The stuff is off the charts, though, specifically with his curveball. It's a 135 stuff. The two other offerings grade out at least as 102 or better. And, you know, sometimes the fastball being what it is at 86 stuff plus, that will lead to some concern. But he's improved the pitch, and he's improved his entire arsenal over the last year. The fastball went from 95.5 to 97. The slider went from 95 to 96. The changeup went from 90 to 91, and the curveball 82 to 84. So he had an increase in velocity across all of his pitches. He had some relief appearances in 2025. I'd imagine that the Pirates will use him as a full-time starter this season. And if you look at some of the projections, the worst of them project about a 4 ERA. And getting him outside of the top 100 starting pitchers, there is nothing but upside with Braxton Ashcraft.
All right, good one too. All right, last one for me is a guy that just signed yesterday. He's the newest member of the Boston Red Sox now, and maybe that's why the ADP was falling behind. People wanted to wait and see where he landed at. But right now, today, he is ADP 180, SP 56, and his name is Ranger Suarez. And Ranger Suarez has been really steady the last couple of years. And in a world dominated by throwers now in Major League Baseball, he's a pitcher. He knows how to pitch. And it's becoming a lost art form. If you look at the last 2 years, his strikeout rate, his walk rate, his ground ball rate, all of those things were above average, where you wanted them to be. Is he a guy that's going to dazzle you with velocity? No. He's a crafty lefty. He's a throwback kind of guy. And now he finds himself on another good team in Boston. I think the Red Sox are still going to be close to a 90-win team this year, somewhere around that range. Obviously, Vegas agrees too. Sure, they got to shore up the offense with Bregman leaving a little bit. But I think Roman Anthony stepping into that role too, full-time next year as a player from wire to wire, is going to be huge for this offense. But He led all pitchers through at least 120 innings last year in terms of command, his location, everything is right there. And again, a guy, is he going to dazzle you and blow you away with the stuff? No. But what he's going to do is going to find you path to wins. He's going to get you double-digit wins. I know last year, again, started the season a little late because of a back issue. 26 starts he did end up making there. Again, the strikeout to walk ratio impeccable. 151 strikeouts to 38 walks. I love pitchers who don't walk guys because they're not going to beat themselves. I expect his ERA to be somewhere in the mid to low threes. I expect that whip to be around 1.22, 1.25 this year. And I'll tell you what, there's no way he is not going to be a top 50, if not top 40 pitcher if he stays healthy and makes all his starts. Because Ranger Suarez, despite the fact that now he's in the American League East, he's going to find a way to miss bats. He's going to find a way to get outs. He's going to find a way to get through the lineups and get through the ballparks that he has to, just like he did in the National League East, because he had to face the Braves and the Mets. And guess what? The Marlins were pretty good last year, too. So I'm not worried about him going to the American League East. All I know is that Ranger Suarez in an era, Joe, where everybody's looking at the radar gun, I'm looking at the productivity as a pitcher. And if you're in quality start leagues, too, I think Ranger Suarez is an underrated guy. What did you make of that signing, too, since we're talking about Suarez and it is kind of new news here as we're recording this a little early? But what did you think of the Suarez signing for the Red Sox?
So I think it's fine. I think that the money will end up looking a little bit expensive in a couple of years. 26 million. I think he's got a couple of good years left in him, but I worry. I know we're talking about pitchers versus throwers, but the fastball velocity being at 91, he's in very fine margins there. So I think he's got a couple of years left where he can still be productive, like we've seen the last couple of years. By the time we're into year 4 of this deal, and we're looking at a 34-year-old Ranger Suarez throwing 88 miles an hour, I don't think it's going to look that great. But the Red Sox for the next couple of years, I think they have a solid SP2, SP3.
Well, it's a good thing for both of us. This isn't a dynasty show because we're talking about
Very
redraft
true.
and we're talking about this season alone. So I'm not worried about it. I like the top of this rotation with him and Crochet, 2 tough lefties. Sonny Gray now out there too. So we'll see what the makeup of the Phillies rotation is without Ranger Suarez too. That'll be interesting. Who's fighting for that 5th spot? Will it be Andrew Painter? Who knows? But again, great stuff from Joe Orrico. Those are 6 names right now that we think are undervalued, that we think are going to outperform their ADP currently. I'm sure some of these ADPs will rise, but if you're playing best ball or doing any kind of early drafts in January or February, jump on the early values, jump on some of these names, because again, what you want to do is not just draft off ADP, draft off what you think ADP in 2027 is going to be. And that is how you win championships. Also, you win championships by subscribing to the feed here and subscribing to our YouTube channel, Fantasy Pros MLB, and wherever you get your podcast too. So drop your comments below. We love hearing from you. Who is your biggest value at SP right now that you think is going to outperform? We love our community here at Fantasy Pros. And of course, don't forget about our Twitch too, where leading off is going to be live in just a couple months. If you can believe it, unbelievable. Whew, time sure does fly. We're going to be back every day, Monday through Friday, talking baseball. So go to twitch.tv/fantasypros, subscribe there, subscribe to the YouTube feed, and of course, send Joe Orrico a heater because he's in like 3 feet of snow right now in his Canadian igloo. Is igloo a better word than
Igloo is more accurate for
Yeah.
what's going on around me right now. It might as well be an igloo. Might have a penguin walk by. It could be Kelly, could be an actual penguin. Who knows?
All right, go check out our latest episode 2. The mock draft show just dropped too recently. That'll do it for us, but the story of the game goes on. For Joe Orrico, I'm Joe Pisapia, all the Joes. We'll see you next time, kids. Happy draft season. Welcome. Fantasy Baseball's back.